Hello, how's it going? So at the end of last year, my girlfriend and I bought this old bungalow and we've been renovating it slowly for the past 6 months or so. We haven't gotten to the bathroom yet. Neither of us really like it, but we've just had bigger priorities and frankly don't have any money left to do anything right now. I only say that to let you know that we know it's kind of ugly. We do know that, but we'll get to it eventually. I recorded this right after we got the keys, and apart from painting the ceiling, not that much has changed. We do have a toilet seat now, which is sick, so it's functional at the very least. Anyway, to the right there, behind that door, that's the hot press. In Ireland, that's where the boiler goes. I don't know what other countries call it, but that's what we call it. In fact, changing this door is one of the only things we've done in here so far. Let me show you what's in here. This is where the boiler used to be, but now that's up in the attic, so we just use it for storage. We've got, our cat, toilet roll, litter, towels, mop. But all this up here is just kind of wasted space, so we could definitely be using it better. Okay, towels out. Let me show you what we're working with. So obviously it's ugly. I mean, it's just a hot press. We got bare plaster walls and a bracket from an old shelf and old pipes just hanging out. I don't know what this one's doing. Got like a rough concrete floor. It's not pretty, Even the new pipes just come through a hole in the ceiling. There's so much to do around the rest of the house that getting this press looking nice is really not a priority. But we would really benefit from having some shelves in there for some extra storage. So I'm going to do that. I started pricing the wood to make some shelves and it was looking like it was going to cost about €80. And then I remembered that I had a bunch of scraps left from when we got our floors done a few months ago. I didn't have a plan for them. I just figured I could do something with them rather than just throwing them away. So I hung on to them and I decided to use them now. They're going to look pretty DIY, but I mean, they literally are. And given where they're going, it would just feel like such a waste of money to spend it when I didn't have to. This place throws up plenty of opportunities for us to spend money on it, so I'll save where I can. I designed the shelves on my iPad in a program called Shaper 3D because I had to figure out how to fit around water pipes and stuff. It just felt like the easiest way to do it. Originally, I designed them to be a bunch of individual slats that were supported by brackets on each end, just really simple. And then I realized that the longest floorboards I had were 75 inches long, and the width of the hot press was 38 inches. 38 by 2 is 76. That meant that I would not have been able to get 2 lots of slats from one floorboard. And so I redesigned them to have these end pieces, which would shorten the inner board, and then I could get more slats per floorboard, less waste. I love stuff like that. All right, let's get to the building. So I took those longer boards and I found the center point, making sure that I had at least 38 inches on each side. And then I went over to the miter saw to cut them down. I really don't like having to cut anything too long on the table saw, so doing this first made them a lot more manageable. And then I needed to cut the tongues and grooves off of each of them, so I set the fence up to remove a really thin strip of material, and I did them all. When that was done, I cut everything down into 1.5-inch strips. I cut more than I needed so that I wouldn't have to set the saw up again. The table saw I have is a pretty cheap job site table saw. And I've made some improvements with the cabinet that I've built for it, but even still, setting it up is a little bit slower and kind of more fiddly than I would like it to be. Someday I will get a nicer, bigger, more expensive saw, but not today. And like I say, for now, this does suit my needs. It's just set up as a little slower than I would like it to be. I wanted the support brackets underneath the shelves to be the width of 2 strips glued together so they'd be wide enough to screw down into. So I grabbed some of the shorter pieces from the pile and took care to make sure I was gluing up enough of them to get all the parts that I'd need. I used a combination of CA glue and activator and a brad nailer to hold the pieces together while the glue was setting, and then I left them clamped up like that for a couple of days. So then it was just a case of going down my list and cutting parts to the right length. If you haven't noticed it already, you'll be able to see it a little bit better later on, but I really haven't had any time lately to clean up my little workshop here, so it's a total mess. I need to get a new filter for my Hoover, so in the meantime I've just been letting dust fly everywhere, which I know is not great. But I mean, nothing is put away where it should be, and there are no free surfaces to put anything down on. I really need to do something about it soon because it's making it harder to get anything done. Like, it's just way less efficient like this, It's actually so messy inside that when I'd completed a set, I decided to put them outside so that they wouldn't get mixed up with the scraps and the junk in there, and then I'd mark them off my list. It was only when I had to cut 10 pieces to the same length that I decided to use a stop block. And I'm glad I did, because it made cutting them really quick and a lot more accurate. Like, duh. It's obvious. I mean, I should have used it before then, but sometimes when I don't have a lot of time to make something, it can feel like taking the extra, 30 seconds to set up a stop block. It feels like it isn't worth slowing down for, but, of course it is. That's a lesson I need to learn. When I had all my pieces cut, I laid them all out to make sure that they were all working. Everything was the length that it should be. Just realized the end of this one still has a tongue I forgot to take off, so I'll have to do that. But anyway, that's supposed to be there, and this is supposed to be on the other one. So when I get back to the house, I need to lay these out again so that I don't start sticking them together and then discover that I've put the wrong one in the wrong spot. Cool. Then it was time to sand, baby. Everyone's favorite step in the process. I'm just realizing how badly we need to paint outside. Anyway, I didn't spend too long with this. I was really just breaking the sharp edges so we wouldn't hurt ourselves when we're trying to grab a towel, I actually put the smaller shelf together before this bigger one, only I did it way more awkwardly because I hadn't really figured out the process yet, so we can skip that and I'll just show you this one. I realized the best way to do it was to clamp down the outer pieces and then put a load of spacers in between the slats instead of just going along with one spacer like you saw me do a minute ago when I was testing out the layout. So I drilled a series of holes with a bit that was long enough to pass through that side piece and into the slat. And then I came back to each hole with a countersink bit. I didn't bother with any glue to hold it together. I just put one of these 80mm screws into each one. I'm just trying to think about how to deal with these two side pieces that overlap. I think I can put this piece on first, just treat it as normal, one screw in the end like I've done for the rest. For this part where they join up, I'll just have to make a concerted effort to remember where my screws were and avoid them. You know that process you just saw where I drilled all the holes at once and it worked really well? I changed it for some reason. I don't know why. On this side I drilled one hole, countersunk or sank it, then put a screw in, and I did that for every single slat. It was so much more faffing around with changing bits. I think a drill battery died at this point too, so I was having to swap that as well. And it was so annoying that I've since bought a third battery so that I won't have to go through that again. Anytime I've ever thought that something in woodworking was going to be quick or easy and I've tried to half-arse it, I've made a real stupid mistake. I think it's easy to get complacent and stop paying as close attention when you're repeating the same action over and over. And that's what happened here when I drilled a wonky hole and a screw broke up through one of the slats. Oh, it came through. I kind of just stared at it for a sec. I would have been more annoyed if it wasn't just for the inside of a hot press. I just decided to deal with the rest and I'd figure it out later. Was this supposed to be pushed all the way up? I think it was. Yes, it was. So that means I'll need to cut a little piece off the end. Right, so I'll just put one in around this other one and be done with it. For that back part that was too long, I took a measurement from the correct side with a piece of scrap and then I transferred it over and trimmed it down. Installing the top shelf was challenging to film and just to get it in. I'll save you from watching the full struggle, but it was such a small space to try and maneuver in, and I had a light like right below me, so it was getting really hot, and I was sweating and swearing for what felt like an hour, and then I saw that the camera had only been recording for 15 minutes. Maybe I'll just try and convince it. The walls aren't perfectly square, which, most walls aren't. About 6 inches from the back, it narrows quite a bit. And so it took me 5 attempts of trying to fit it in and then going and shaving it down a little bit and then coming back and trying to tap it into place with a mallet. Finally, I got it to where it was level in all directions and then I got the brackets in under it. But I won't bother showing you that twice, so we'll just jump to the bigger shelf, which was also a challenge. I'm not even sure how I'm going to put it in. Oh, shit.
Oh shit.
This is not something I thought about. Oh, I didn't think about this part.
Oh no.
Oh, I didn't think about this part. It will fit. Oh. What do I do?
I don't ask me. You
I don't really know what my plan is now because I'm kind of just putting it in, rotating it, taking it back out, trying it again. Oh! Oh, do you know, I think I measured to the wall, but didn't take into account that the door frame is like half an inch probably. Oh no, maybe, I think I did take that into account. I'm not really sure what happened. I don't think there's any way around it. I just need to take a little bit off the back of each of them. At one point it got wedged and I needed to push it back towards the wall, but I couldn't hit it or pull it enough to move it. Oh, I wish I had any sort of upper body strength. Finally I realized I could crowbar it back and it slid right into place. Oh, I can crowbar it into place. Deadly. For the big long support, I got the shelf to the right height and then I popped the bracket up against it and held a level to it to make sure that it was straight. And I drilled through it to leave just a little mark in the wall, and then I drilled those holes bigger, put in rod plugs, and then fixed it into place. Now. So on the other side, at first I was getting it level across the front, but then the back was still sitting too high, so I'd try and knock that down and then the front corner would slip. I think I probably did that 3 times before I finally realized that what I needed to do was get it level across the front and then put a bracket in below it to hold it in place. So again, using a level, I made sure that it was level. And I fixed the bracket in place, and then I was able to pull the shelf down to meet it. I got the final support put in at the back, and then it was just a case of screwing the shelves down from above, and they were done. We've been using these shelves for about a month, and they are really holding up our tails, I've got to say. It's kind of hard to hype them up when it's like Scrapwood shelves for your hot press. But look, they work great and we're really happy with the extra storage. I haven't done too much work where I'm trying to, fit something into a space before, so I definitely learned a lot. Next time I will not just take it for granted that all the angles are 90 degrees. Hey, maybe give this video a like if you liked it and subscribe if you're not already. And I'll be back really soon with something else that I've made. Yeah, thanks. Bye-bye.